Today is a very important occasion where, for the first time since 2015, Kumul Consolidated Orange Limited, which looks after the general business trust for our people, is able to pay a dividend of 80 million kina to its shareholder, and also more importantly where at least 7% of that dividend, according to the established dividend policy, will be paid to the Sovereign Wealth Fund. The Mark talked about Sovereign Wealth Fund, where our Prime Minister Marape has been pushing for over the years, and which has actually been established through a organic law. What we are now about to see is the results of the reforms that were introduced by our Prime Minister Marape back in 2019, where it was felt by the government that our SOEs, who happen to dominate most of the business sectors of our economy in this country, were not providing the returns that were expected of by our people, who still remain the shareholders of those SOEs. If you look at them, most of them enjoy monopolies or near monopolies in the various sectors of the industry they operate in. So it was to these reform programs that were introduced by the Marape government back in 2019 that work commenced. And what KCH has done as a result is that for each of the SOEs, we recognize that all of those SOEs need competent people to drive them. So under those reforms, everyone, starting from a chairman, member of the board, and a CEO of each individual SOE, had to be carefully screened and selected. And for those who were carefully screened and selected and finally approved and appointed by cabinet led by our chairman, Prime Minister Marape, these appointments were not made because of political connections, mateships, one-third system, regionalism, but they were made based on professionalism alone and upon credentials and experience that each one of them offered to bring to the table of each of those SOEs. So what we are now seeing is the result of the effort that we put in. We now have people we think can deliver for us and continue to deliver for the next couple of years. We have competent and credible people who are leading those SOEs. And as all of you know, reforms take time to materialize. Some will take 4 years, some will take 1 year. So we have started those reforms under the leadership and guidance of our Prime Minister Marape, and they are beginning to bear fruit. Some have already started paying good dividends, some will, and over the next course of couple of years, you will continue to see continuous pipeline of dividends being paid by our very own SOEs to help our government meet the ever-expanding population's needs in this country. KCH has been able to put in measures such as making sure that all the financial audits of all our SOEs are done properly and are certified by the Auditor General's office. These are very important changes. In the past, we were used to seeing qualified audit reports being presented by the Auditor General office, and that continues to be the case. But to start with, at least 4 of our companies have been able to secure unqualified audit reports from the Auditor General's office. I'd like to acknowledge the Minister for Finance and Planning, who's joined us. Honorable Minister, thank you. So all of these reports for at least 4 companies have not been qualified, starting with KCH itself, Dataco, for instance, MJL, and Ports to start with. So they have met unqualified certification by the Auditor General, which is a very good start. There are others which are still work in progress. We've set up teams. We have engaged private accountants to go and have a look at the books. So gone are the days when all the CFOs of our SOEs would simply mislead us and provide us half-baked information. There is no room and no time, and they will eventually be caught out. So we put in messages that will make sure that all the accounts are in order. So that's a big improvement from the days that have gone by. We've seen, and most of the SOEs Prime Minister has been able to keep the audits reports up to date. So that's one example of the reform process program that was introduced by Marape, which is working for us now. There are others like looking at the payroll structure and the structure of each SOE such that we avoid duplication. We avoid instances where service providers are paid using inflated contracts or inflated invoices. We are starting to make those changes, so soon you'll see a lot of improvements. We have ongoing issues with companies such as PNG Power, mostly to do with legacy issues, a bit to do with incompetence on the part of our employees, and a bit to do with political interference. But as I said earlier, since the reform package was introduced by the Marape government, you will be seeing less and less interference from politicians like myself. So all of these SOEs are led and managed by competent professionals. So Prime Minister and members of the public, I'd like to acknowledge the never-ending support from our Prime Minister, who's always at our back supporting us and making sure the programs introduced by his government back in 2019 bear fruits. We have some ongoing issues with a number of companies. They are what I term as issues that can be turned around during a given period of time. So what we're about to see now is a result of all the hard work and reform programs introduced by this government. And we'd like to say on this occasion that we would like KCH to be the first government-owned company to be able to contribute to the much talked about Sovereign Wealth Fund, led and promulgated by our Prime Minister Marape. It's a sort of good things to come. And I can say that for once, for the first time since independence, the stars have now been aligned as far as the SOEs are concerned. They have a caring Prime Minister. They have a very hard-working Minister of Treasury who always has time for SOEs, hard-working Minister of Planning and Finance who have time for SOEs, and a hard-working group of companies led by the chairman of KCH, MD plus hard-working SOEs. So for the first time since independence, the stars are aligned for our SOEs. I can confidently say that because I've been around too. I've been in politics for many, many years. I've served numerous prime ministers, and I can say with confidence that from what I can see, for the first time, for the SOEs, the stars have been aligned. All we will see next will be dividend after dividend. Much work to be done, but we stand ever ready to continue our hard work. And we're lucky to have a Prime Minister who understands us, who's given us free rein to introduce the reform packages. And let me warn our SOEs, employees of SOEs, who think that status quo will remain. No, it will not. It will change for the better for their children and their grandchildren. Not only mine, not only the Prime Minister's. We all stand here to gain if we put in the hard work. So once again, may God bless our Prime Minister and our government. May God bless each one and every one of you as you go through these programs. Thank you.